My name's Lane Scruggs, and I've been teaching at Alberta Bible College since I returned back from Toronto. I did my undergraduate studies at ABC and then went to Toronto to do my graduate studies, my master's and doctorate at the University of Toronto. And so we returned in 2018, and I hopped right back into ABC life and doing some teaching at the college. I get the opportunity to teach History of Christianity 1 and History of Christianity 2 back to back in the spring each year. Some students are even brave enough to take the courses back to back. They're pretty heavy courses, but they're very rich and very rewarding courses as well. My hopes for students getting something out of the course, I guess, would begin with, often we start the class with asking, why are you taking this course? And for a lot of students, history courses, the response is, because I have to. It's a required course. I need to graduate, which is a perfectly fine answer. We have to do some of these things in life. But my hope is that as we explore the richness of the Christian tradition, both in its breadth globally and in its depth historically, that you begin to be shaped and formed in new ways, that you'll be sort of empathetic to different voices, that you'll be humble in how you approach all of Christian history, and that you'll actually be more eager and engaged to learn more, to continue learning about our own faith and our tradition. Well, naturally, I'm excited and eager for all the assignments that we have, but I think when we get to share a little bit about our own personal traditions and how those play into things, I think that's always a rewarding thing, that students realize, oh, I'm a part of this history, that my family or even just my own personal faith is rooted in something bigger than just me as an individual. And so I think those assignments that ties us into that past, something that we sometimes think is out there or behind us or happened one time, but we realize that it's a living tradition. I think one of the things that I've seen students do throughout the course of these two classes is really come alive to an idea of tradition that maybe they didn't realize they wanted before. So there's an old historian named Miroslav Pelikan who taught at Yale Divinity School. And Pelikan used to say there's a big difference between tradition and traditionalism. He says, traditionalism is the dead faith of the living. It's just tradition for tradition's sake. But tradition is actually the living faith of the dead. And when I see that idea come alive in students, it's really inspiring for me, and it reminds me of why I love to teach and why I love this living faith that we have, because it's a handing on of something that this deposit, this good news, this gospel is so precious that we have to keep it safe so we can hand it on to the next generation. So for History of Christianity 1, we cover a lot of ground. We really go from sort of the birth of the church right after what we call the apostolic period. So when the apostles die, the next generation, we pick things up right there, and we go all the way just to sort of leading up to pre-Reformation ideas. So before the Protestant Reformation, we look at key things like what we call the Great Schism, which is between the East and the West, the first major division in the Christian tradition. We look at a lot of medieval Christianity. We look at what we call the patristic era, which is these early church fathers and mothers, the birth and rise of monasticism. We look at all the major councils and sort of the complex theological wrestling that the early church does as it engages with its scriptures. So naturally, with History of Christianity 2, we pick things up right where we leave them off with Christianity 1. And we engage in this Renaissance period as the rumblings of the Reformation are upon us. And so we spend a lot of time wrestling through the Reformation, and not just the details and the major players and everything like that, but what does this mean? And what does it mean that many of us are actually on a certain side of a division in the Christian tradition? How do we handle that? How do we wrestle with that even now in this divided landscape of Christianity? And then from there, we look at the rise of the early modern period. Again, we're trying to have a bit more of a global perspective on what Christianity is doing. And then especially in the 20th and 21st century, we look at this explosion of evangelical Christianity in the global south, in the majority world. And what does that mean for us as we live in the minority world, in the first world countries, in the global north, so to speak? You should come and be a part of it. It really is one of those classes that can bust myths that you might have. It's one of those classes that's going to push you. It's a lot of material. It's a lot of content that we cover. But I guarantee you that whatever cohort, whatever group you're with when you come, you're going to be challenged and you're going to be shaped and formed and you're going to be changed by looking at the living tradition of our faith.